guys, Scaro9 here, welcome back to my channel today, and in this video we are going to be once again ranking every exotic weapon in Destiny. This time there are 61 exotics in the game, and we're going to be taking a look at all of them, how good they are in the different arenas of Destiny, and ranking them 61 to 1. Now, just as always, I want to lay out a couple of rules, but first I want to thank off everyone who has purchased one of my pins. I've been getting a ton of pictures from you guys over on the social medias, and it seems like everyone is really loving them. There's only about half of them left, so I'm going to be running a sale for, Black Friday, Thanksgiving, whatever. 10% off, just use the code RANK61 at checkout, and you'll get yourself 10% off the pin. Make sure you pick them up because after they are gone, they are never returning. But let's just go ahead and get back into the video. So, like I said, there's a couple of things that, I have to lay out every single video because people forget or we get new people, and I think it's really important. So, obviously, this is going to be a very long video. There are 61 exotics. We're going to be talking about each one individually, but I'm only going to be talking about what I consider to be the key points for every single weapon. If I, talked about every weapon, how good it was in Crucible, Gambit, PvE, raids, and, everything, this video would be 20 hours long. I don't want to edit that. You guys don't want to watch that. So I'm going to, break down 2 or 3 main points for every weapon. That's what we're going to be talking about, but in my rankings, I'm going to try to consider everything as a whole because it's a lot easier to do that behind the scenes. So if I talk about one of your favorite weapons and I forget a point that you might think is really important, chances are is that actually came into consideration. I just didn't think it was one of the most important aspects of the weapon, so I decided not to talk about it in the video, but it was still taken into consideration when I ranked it. Also, if there's a weapon not on this list and you guys think I forgot something, I have checked like 20 times to make sure I have gotten every single weapon. They are all here. So if there's a weapon in the game that is not included on this list, it did not exist at the time of me making it. Right now, it is November 24th at the time of me recording this. And, obviously exotics are going to be added in the future. If it's not on this list, it didn't exist. So please don't spam down in the comments that I forgot something because I promise I didn't. All of these things are obviously my opinion. I play on PC. I very much focus towards like end game content, grinding titles, doing raids, that sort of thing. So my play style is going to differ a lot from everyone else's. That's obviously going to affect this list, but that's okay. If you have differing opinions than me, let me know down in the comment section below. This isn't supposed to be the end-all, be-all list. This is a starting point. The entire goal of these things is to provide feedback to Bungie. These are my viewpoints. Let them know whether you agree or disagree with me about each of these down in the comment section below, or, pick out the main ones that you might not like. I obviously play the game in my own way. You guys will as well. And that definitely affects our rankings. And then one final point, obviously some of these weapons are going to be more Crucible focused, some are going to be more PvE focused. That's just the nature of the game. I've tried to take these things as objectively as possible, so if something's good in PvE, I try to find an exotic that's just as good in PvP and rank them about the same, right? If something's only good in one arena, you want to try to rank them based on how good they are in that arena compared to other exotics and existing weapons as well. But if an exotic is good in PvE and PvP, it's obviously going to rank higher than anything that's only good in one arena, or that's how I try to do it at least, so that is important to discuss. But that is all of the rules. Once again, leave your feedback down in the comment section, and let's just go ahead and get into the video. I'm very excited for this. Everyone always loves the unveiling of the worst exotic in the game, in my opinion. Number 61, Skyburner's Oath. I don't know why people use this. It's no different than a regular scout rifle. In fact, I think it's more annoying to use due to the alternating fire rates when you aim and when you're hip firing it. It's a really cool and novel idea, but I don't think it was implemented very well. I don't know why it's an exotic, and it's one perk. Well, it's like 2 main draws that people used to really like. It does bonus damage to Cabal. Doesn't matter. We don't really fight Cabal anymore. And it can shoot through phalanx shields. Once again, we don't really do that, and now with this season, any SMG, hand cannon, or auto rifle can do the exact same thing with the artifact perks, mods, whatever you want to call them. Doesn't really matter. Worst exotic in the game needs a retune, and that is where it's going to go. Number 60, Black Talon. I feel like this has gotten just more and more underwhelming as the seasons have gone. We got some really cool swords with the Heroic Menagerie last season, and that makes all of the exotic swords kind of meh. I just don't know why we need them. It's really cool that you can fling shots through the air and that sort of thing, but those don't do a lot of damage in PvE. There's no reason to use them in Gambit, and it's fun in PvP, but it doesn't really have that much advantage over a regular sword, in my opinion. Really lackluster, and that's why it's in the number 60 slot. Now in the number 59 slot, this one's probably going to make a couple people mad. The Two-Tailed Fox. You guys know I have never liked this thing. It is incredibly clunky, and the thing that really bothers me the most is the delayed fire rate. When I pull the trigger, I really want there to be an immediate response. The fact that I have to wait a second for both rockets to dislodge and then fire really throws off what I'm aiming at a lot of the time. Makes it so you have to be a little bit more calculated, which isn't exactly how a lot of people play, including myself, with rocket launchers. You know, it's pretty immediate point and click, or at least that's the response I like to expect. And I just don't know. I feel like if you took that away, it would be a lot better. Supposedly, it does a lot of damage. I've seen a lot of numbers being crunched on this thing, and it does very competitive in terms of overall damage that it does. I just don't find it very fun to use. It doesn't really offer anything above something like the Izanagi's or other powerhouses in the game, and I just don't think it has a place as of yet. So that's why it's in the number 59 slot. In the number 58 slot, once again, another weapon that's been kind of forgotten with time. That is going to be Merciless. It's not bad by any means. I mean, most of the weapons on this list aren't bad. We're in a very good place in Destiny where every exotic, except for Skyburners, is pretty usable, right? Like, I don't think anyone has a problem using any of these. None of them are really bad or, you know, garbage tier or anything like that. Merciless definitely kind of exemplifies that. It's really good. It does a great amount of damage, but there are so many better options in the game. It doesn't really have its own niche, and it's just been kind of forgotten. Now in the number 57 slot, we have the Lemon Arc, or the Monarch, whatever you want to call it. We have a lot of fun with memes here on the channel, so it will forever be the Lemon Arc. And it's a fun weapon to use all around. You know, bows feel really good. This one's really satisfying because you hit those headshots with the perfect draw. You have like that void explosion. People get trapped in the poison cloud, that sort of thing. It's very fun for like tracking enemies around corners and that sort of thing. But it doesn't offer much more than a regular bow. So, you know, and it's harder to use than a regular bow, because with regular bows you don't have to hit that perfect shot. But with the Monarch, if you're not hitting that perfect shot, then it doesn't do anything extra, right? So that's why in the number 57 slot. Hopefully it gets a buff in the future though, because I love using this weapon. Now in the number 56 slot, we are going to be looking at the first new exotic being brought with the Shadowkeep expansion. This is the Xenophage, and I just want to go ahead and say, with all of the brand new Shadowkeep weapons, I'm actually going to be reading their exotic perks as well. For everything that's been in the game for a couple of months, I'm going to, you know, kind of expect you guys to know what they do, but all the new Shadowkeep ones, I know some people haven't purchased the DLC or played all the way through or done the exotic quests, so I do like to read off the perks for them. So the Xenophage has a perk called Pyrotoxin Rounds. It just fires high-powered explosive ammunition. Essentially, it's an LMG and like a sniper combined. It's kind of like a DMR, if you think of something from like Halo, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's not good. It's really unfortunate because it can't hit critical shots. You have an LMG, which, you know, with LMGs, it's very important that you hit your critical shots, and you combine it with a sniper rifle, which obviously with sniper rifles hit your criticals. And for some reason, when Bungie put them together, they decided to not make it do critical damage. Honestly, it's silly. It's not good. It doesn't really offer anything above something like the Thunderlord or even the Hammerhead, right? Legendary machine guns get way more ammo, and I feel like they do damage way more consistently, and you can get critical shots and that sort of thing. Xenophage, while it is appealing to things like Crucible, there's no reason to use it. Regular machine guns will do just fine, but Bungie has said they are buffing these, which, you know, I'm very excited to see what they do with the Xenophage, because I want it to be a good gun. It's very cool. It's got a cool concept and that sort of thing, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now in the 55th place, or spot 55, that was kind of weird, we have the Hard Lights. This weapon's caught in like a weird limbo, right? It should be really useful. You can cycle through all three elements, but Bungie is actually stepping away from the elemental shield. It kind of seems like that. It's not as important anymore. Really, right now, they're focusing on the barrier champions, the unstoppable champions, and the overload champions. Shields, in terms of Arc Solar Void, have taken a back seat. It seems like they're not really focusing on those anymore to make activities harder, which means you don't really need weapons like this. Plus, Hard Light has unbearable amounts of screen shake, making it just just unappealing. I don't want to ever use it. Even if it would be useful in my current activity, I will commonly, you know, just default to everyone on my team running a different element to take care of those shields because we don't want to have to deal with hard light screen shake. It's not fun to use. It's decently effective, I guess, but it's just shields aren't really a focus right now, and it's annoying to use, so it's in the 55th slot. Now in the next spot, we have the Trinity Ghoul. Pretty much the same thing with Lemon Arc. This thing is great for mobbing. You have the chaining features that are very appealing. It looks really awesome. It's pretty effective against things like Thrall and Scions and that sort of thing. However, bows are just not in a great place in PvE right now. There's a lot better options. Things like SMGs, hand cannons, they're a lot more efficient at taking out large groups of enemies. And so while this thing is really fun to use, I feel like it really struggles, especially on kind of like the boss DPS end of it, which if you're using an exotic, you don't necessarily need it to be the end all be all for DPS, but you want it to do all right. You are giving up a pretty important slot in order to have the Trinity Ghoul. And I just feel like it kind of lacks on the DPS, but it is kind of cool. It's like an arc Sunshot essentially, and that's why it's in the 54th spot in this video. Now in spot 53, we have the Cold Heart. This gun used to be the best of the best in like vanilla, but it's just kind of stayed consistent. Bungie hasn't really done anything to it. Trace rifles in general are kind of lackluster right now for the most part. There's not really perks for them, at least specialized perks for them. There's not really been a lot of changes to them in terms of buffs or making them more interesting. And it's just stayed really consistent. It does decent damage, I guess, but trace rifles are in a really unfortunate stage where they're all right at mobbing and all right at DPS, where there are other things in the game that are amazing at both, and I feel like Cold Heart really needs to be tuned a little bit to make it a more appealing option. Now in the number 52 slot, we have the Sweet Business. I feel like this gun gets a little bit more disappointing every season. On PC, from what I understand, it's a little bit easier to use, so like I said, I play on PC. If you go into a gunfight with this thing not spun up, you will lose 10 out of 10 times. If you just you have no baseline set, you just start firing, you're going to lose to everything. Scout rifles, hand cannons, auto rifles, you will lose to everything. But if you spin this thing up and then peek around the corner and shoot people with it, it's actually quite powerful. But on PC, you're able to track a lot better. It doesn't really have a spot in PvE on either platform, and I just feel like it needs some changes, right? We have guns that shoot like literal tracking fireballs. This thing just shoots a lot of bullets. I feel like it just needs to be a little bit better to make up for the fact that it doesn't have any really weird quirks. So that's that. Now we're moving on to the 51st spot, the Crimson. My personal kind of sad story of Destiny 2. I really want this thing to be so good. If I had to pick an exotic out of all of these to be the best of the best, that if I was like, Bungie, please fix it, it would be the Crimson. I really love the theme. The Red Death was my favorite in Destiny 1, so obviously when they introduced the Crimson to Destiny 2, I loved it, but it's not that great in PvP. It's not that great in PvE. It doesn't really offer anything that would make me ever go anywhere near it in Gambit. I just want it to just feel like the Red Death. I want it to have the range. I want it to have the usefulness, and I want it to almost feel like a crutch in PvE activities. I don't want them to make it overpowered, but I want it to feel exotic, which I feel the Crimson does not currently do. Now we're going to move on to the 50th slot for this video. This is going to be the Sturm. Incredibly disappointing. It can 2-tap in the right situations, which is kind of cool, but I just feel like hand cannons right now, especially on PC, are so good. Sturm doesn't really compete, unfortunately. It doesn't really offer anything compared to other hand cannons in the game that wouldn't, like, its exotic perk isn't that great, that sort of thing. And I don't know, I just feel like it could offer more. Now in the 49 slot, we have another hand cannon that I feel like, you know, fits into that same category, the Lumina. It has a really cool idea for an exotic perk where you heal and buff your teammates, but unless you're running with like 4 to 6 people running the Lumina, and that's like the only thing you're doing, it doesn't really shine. It doesn't have any weird things that make it stand out in terms of like a competitive standpoint or that sort of thing. If you're just loading into Iron Banner, 6 of you guys using Lumina, it's a ton of fun. If you can coordinate, shoot each other before you go around a corner, everyone has the buff, everyone has an overshield, that sort of thing. It's very powerful, but in terms of just like, I want to play Crucible for the day, loading up, using Lumina, why? There's better exotic hand cannons, there's better legendary hand cannons, not really a reason to. Now in the number 48 slot, we have the Vigilance Wing. Nothing really to say here. Its exotic perk isn't as good as it kind of used to be. It was definitely built around like the Trials of the Nine mode. That's out of the game now. I feel like its real exotic perk is going to be the 5-round burst because you can, I believe, 2 burst people with it. It's kind of disappointing to use. Doesn't feel that great. But, you know, still got a cool theme. Maybe if Trials of Osiris ever comes back, please Bungie, this thing will be useful. But for right now, I just feel like it doesn't really have a great place in the game, especially with how quick-paced Crucible is. I just feel like this thing doesn't really fit in very well. And now in the number 47 slot, we have the Borealis. You know, same thing as the Hard Light. Shields aren't as important, but this sniper at least feels very good to use. It's very sticky. It does a decent amount of damage, whereas, you know, Hard Light doesn't do that. And then, you know, its exotic perk makes it do even more damage. So that's, you know, pretty good. Borealis still needs a rework in my opinion, but it's decent right now. So that's why it's in the number 47 slot. Now in the 46 slot, we have the Graviton Lance. Still pretty good. I love the exotic perk. It's very, you know, aesthetically pleasing, very flashy, very powerful, but I just don't know if it offers that much above something like the inaugural dress or what's another really good pulse rifle right now? The Blast Furnace or something like that, right? Like you have all of these pulse rifles in the game that function so well and don't take up your exotic slot, where something like the Graviton Lance, which functions pretty much on the same level with a little bit more explosions, doesn't really feel like enough justification to take that exotic slot right now. So I'm going to keep it in the number 46 slot. Now in the number 45 slot, we have the Mida. This season, scout rifles have definitely made sort of a comeback, especially with everyone grinding towards the Randy's throwing knife. That's pretty important. Everyone needs to be using a scout rifle if you want the Undying Seal or if you want this limited time ritual weapon. But the Mida just doesn't really fit that for me. I don't know why. I've always liked this thing over things like the Jade Rabbit, the Polaris Lance, but for some reason this season, maybe it's the switch to PC, the Mida doesn't really work as well as it used to. I feel like it gets outdueled a lot. It's a little bit more difficult to use than something like the Jade Rabbit. I feel like maybe it's not as sticky or something. I don't know. I don't know what it is about the Mida. When I was using it, I wasn't really feeling it as much as I was feeling other things like the Randy's throwing knife or things like the Jade Rabbit or that sort of thing. So I'm not really sure, but after, you know, a full year of being tortured by the Mida with its high caliber rounds when Vanilla Destiny was out here, I'm not exactly sad that's not Powerhouse anymore. I've had enough PTSD from the Mida for one entire lifetime, so that's where it's gonna rank. Now in the number 44 slot, we have the Tractor Cannon, something that was S tier last season, really tanked this season when they started taking away, you know, debuff stacking. The Tractor Cannon no longer stacks with things like Oppressive Darkness Grenades or Melting Point Shoulder Charge Titans or Shattering Strike Hunters or anything like that. Tractor Cannon just isn't as useful as it used to be. The amount that it debuffs enemies actually got lowered, so it's not really that great in PvE anymore, especially when you have things like Divinity, which, you know, the Divinity renders Tractor Cannon obsolete even after the Divinity gets nerfed, which won't happen until next season. But, I mean, Tractor Cannon, you can use it in PvP, but there's things that shut down supers now. There's so many things. If you're a Sentinel Titan, your melee and your grenades both shut down supers. Supers are a lot weaker in PvP now, so just a simple team shot, you know, you have 2 or 3 people shooting a super with an auto rifle or a scout rifle or an SMG, you'll easily be able to kill them. If you have a sniper rifle, pretty much one person can just, you know, double body tap and take them out themselves. Some supers have a little bit more damage reduction than that, but they're still a lot weaker than they used to be. Tractor Cannon isn't as appealing as it used to be, and that's why it is in slot number 44. Now in the 43rd slot, we have another Trace Rifle. This is going to be the Prometheus Lens. I feel like this gets more use than the Cold Heart. It's decent in Crucible. It's a little bit better, I personally feel like. It's very good at general mobbing and clearing out large groups of enemies. You pretty much never have to reload. You get a lot of ammo for it. It does a lot of damage, especially whenever you are getting it built up over a period of time. It's pretty good, not awful in PvP, and I still wish it would have a little bit of a rework, though. I feel like Trace Rifles, once again, just as a whole, need to be a little bit more appealing, and that's why it is in rank number 43. Now in rank 42, we have the Malfeasance, another exotic hand cannon. This is another one. Doesn't really offer anything above regular hand cannons. It's pretty good against taken enemies, but taken enemies are not the focus of this season, so doesn't really have that going for it. It's very good against invaders and Gambit, but so are a lot of other things. So Malfeasance, while it's pretty fun to use, it's not awful. I just feel like it kind of lost it had its own little niche, it had its own little place that a lot of people could use it, but very powerful weapons being added to the game really took that away from the weapon, leaving it kind of meh right now. So maybe if the Taken base seasons ever come back, it'll be a little bit more useful, but for right now, it is going to stay in rank 42. Now in rank 41, we have the Polaris Lance. Like I said, a little bit more consistent than the Mida, a lot better in PvE than the Mida. You know, you pretty much never have to reload. You do after a while, but you get a lot more than, 13 or 14 shots in the magazine with this thing. If you're constantly hitting those critical hits, you're doing explosive damage as that solar elemental addition to it, which makes it just a little bit more useful. It's not awful in Crucible. It could be better. Definitely shines more in PvE than PvP, but it's pretty fun to use. It looks aesthetically pleasing in terms of like all the explosions and stuff, and you know, it's just a little bit better than a lot of scout rifles. So I'm going to rank it in spot number 41. Now in spot 40, we have another brand new weapon with Shadowkeep. This is going to be the Deathbringer with its perk, Dark Deliverance. It remotely fires detonated projectiles that drop void orbs on enemies. You hold the fire and you release to detonate. It's essentially a void version of the Dragon's Breath from Destiny 1. And it kind of fits in the same place as the Dragon's Breath. It's not unnecessarily weak, like it does damage, but it's more about like wide damage to an area rather than single target DPS. The Deathbringer is a little bit better at single target DPS because the orbs will kind of like track to a center object sometimes if you're lucky. It's good in encounters like the Bath encounters in the Leviathan. It one-shots those guys and that sort of thing. It's good at general ad clear, but if you're just shooting it at a boss, like let's say you have a strike boss or something, the Deathbringer really doesn't pack the punch that other rocket launchers and other heavies do, and I just feel like it just needs a little bit of an oomph. Like maybe the Catalyst, if it ever gets added, will change this thing to make it a lot better. I'm not really sure. It's a very cool looking weapon. It's very pleasing to use. It's a lot of fun to use, but I just feel like it lacks some of that general effectiveness. Now in the 39th slot, we have the Wave Splitter, definitely the best out of the three trace rifles, in my opinion, but still it could use a buff. This one really shines in PvP, however, it's definitely the best out of the three in PvP. In PvE, it's not, but it's definitely not as good at general ad clear as the Prometheus Lens. It really, like I said, it shines in PvP. It's very easy to use. You don't get a ton of ammo for it, and the lack of trace rifle specific perks really kind of hurts its spot. I think it would definitely be a little bit better if you could spec towards it a little bit more. Though at the end of the day, once again, I really hope Bungie reevaluates trace rifles where they fit into the meta and really helps to make them a little bit better. Now in the number 38 spot, we have the Wardcliff Coil. Not the best, not the worst. It still packs a punch, but there are better alternatives to this weapon. It's a lot of fun. I really like kind of the chaotic nature of it, although the Catalyst makes it less chaotic, which is very nice. You know, with the tracking rockets and that sort of thing. It does a lot of damage, but like I said, there's a lot better options that are a little bit more consistent. And, you know, the Wardcliff is just kind of a good exotic. That's pretty much it. There's nothing special about it, but if you need to fall back and use it, no one's going to complain about it, I don't think. It's good in PvP, it's good in PvE, and, yep. Pretty much is going to rank in the number 38 slot. Now in the number 37 slot, we have the Wish Ender. Really fun to use. I'm actually really surprised it's not more popular than it is. A lot of people like rally around other bows in the game, and one of them isn't Wish Ender. It doesn't really have its fan fanatics, and it's really interesting to me. Bows are pretty good in PvP in this meta. They're not the best, but they're competitive more so than in previous seasons, in my opinion. The Wish Ender just gives you a little bit more of an edge. You can see through walls, penetrates enemies and that sort of thing. It's very, very fun to use. You have to work to get it though, so maybe that's a little bit of a turn-off to some people. But you know, it's just a more competitive bow in my opinion. So it's going to be in rank number 37. Now in rank number 36, we have the Fighting Lion, one of the most fun exotics to use in the game, in my opinion. It's undeniably harder to use since they took out auto reload. Now that you can't wear Lunafaction boots and use a Rift and just fire endlessly, or you can't use a Titan Barricade or that sort of thing. You have to play more to its exotic perk where you damage someone with it, switch to a hand cannon, and kill them with a hand cannon, or I use a hand cannon, but you can switch to any weapon and kill them with it, and it will automatically reload the Fighting Lion. You have to play that a little bit more hard than you used to, just because you'll have to reload manually if you don't, and that takes a lot of time, takes you out of the fight, and definitely makes it less effective. But like I said, it's a lot of fun to use. It's definitely annoying for the other team when you're using it, which, you know, it's never a bad thing. People get annoyed, they start playing worse, and that helps you out because you start doing better. And yeah, Fighting Line, rank number 36. Now in the number 35 slot, we have the Colony. Probably one of the most boring exotics in my opinion in terms of how much I've gotten. I'm getting bored of it, I guess. It's been so dominant in previous seasons that it was annoying. Now it's not really dominant anymore. You get 3 shots in regular team-based Crucible matches whenever you pick up heavy ammo. That's enough for like 1 kill, 2 if you're super lucky. But you know, it's effective, but it's boring, not as effective as it used to be, but it's still kind of reliable. It's in a weird kind of limbo. I know I keep using that word, but it's a great way to describe a lot of these in my opinion. And yeah, that's where I'm going to rank it in the number 35 slot. Now in the number 34 slot, we have the Arbalest. This has the potential to be really, really good in future seasons, especially if Bungie starts playing off the elemental shields a little bit more. With adding the different champions, it seems like they are interested in adding more kind of utility to shields and adding different sorts of shields and that sort of thing. If they start getting more shields or that sort of thing, or they start playing around a little bit more with elemental shields to kind of complement the champion system, Arbalest is going to be a lot better. It's already hella incredible in Crucible. It's very, very good in Gambit. It's pretty good in PvE, and I really hope that Bungie starts playing off of it a little bit more, and it's just a lot of fun to use. It sounds really cool, and yeah. Number 34 slot. Number 33 slot, we have the Prospector. This weapon is a complete powerhouse. It's not as good as it used to be, especially now that you can't like sack buffs and that sort of thing, but it still does a lot of damage very, very quickly. It's very easy to use and that sort of thing. It's alright in Crucible, not that great. I think this thing really shines in things like Rage. You can still one-phase Riven with it, or in things like Gambit to take out the Primeval and that sort of thing. But I feel like it's not as good as it used to be, so it's in the 33 slot. Now in the 32nd slot, we have the Saros. Pretty much the same thing as Mida. I expected a little bit more, but when I went to use it, it wasn't as good as I expected. However, especially with the Catalyst, the healing factor is incredibly nice. It definitely saves your butt whenever you're going up against multiple people and that sort of thing. It's not bad, but I just feel like it doesn't offer enough versus like regular legendary auto rifles. Yeah, Saros, 32nd slot, not a lot to say about it. Now in the number 31 slot, here's one of the saddest stories in Destiny 2, the Sleeper Simulant. Used to be the best of the best of the best, especially in Destiny 1, right? Like, this thing was insane. Destiny 2 came back insane once again. They nerfed it. They nerfed it again. Pretty sure they nerfed it a 3rd time. Really just does not have a place in the game anymore. Legendary linear fusion rifles do just as good. This thing's alright in Gambit, I guess, but like there's way better alternatives that we'll talk about in a little bit. It's just like you have to do such an epic journey to get this weapon, and it's just a huge letdown. Also has one of the most difficult catalysts to get and complete in the game, and it's just not worth it. I don't know, man. I really hope the Sleeper comes back because it's a lot of fun to use, but right now it's harder to use than more effective exotic weapons. When you have exotic weapons that you point and click, and you do that like once or twice, they're obviously going to shine a little bit more, especially when they do a lot of damage compared to ones that are a little bit more difficult to use, like the Sleeper. So it's going in the number 31 slot. Now in the number 30 slot, we have the Darcy. Does a ton of damage, but is completely overshadowed, especially by 2 exotic snipers that we're going to be talking about in a little bit, the Whisper of the Worm and the Izanagi's Burden. Darcy really just doesn't have a place in Destiny right now. It competes damage-wise, but it's harder to use, requires more clicking, and just more setup in general than something like the Whisper of the Worm. And it just needs to shine a little bit more. I don't know how they could do it. I don't have any suggestions, but the Darcy needs to have some sort of change to carve out its own little space in the game. And yeah, because it doesn't have that, it's going in the number 30 slot. Now in the number 29 slot, we have the Telesto. It's a lot of fun. It makes people have nightmares that do-do-do. I still have nightmares from Season 3, Season 4 comp with this thing. Holy shit, Telesto. It's very effective. You can very easily just rack up ammo for it. Every shot's pretty much like a guaranteed kill, or maybe 2 shots for a kill depending on the range. No range fall off, that's actually really important as well, but the stability kind of affects how effective it is at longer ranges. A lot of times the kick will actually like go more than a person, so you'll miss a couple of the bolts, but very easy to use. You can set traps, pretty effective against supers, and yeah, going in the number 29 spot. Now in the number 28 slot, we have the Cerberus +1. The Catalyst completely changed my opinion of this gun. It was kind of annoying to use on PC, in my opinion. It's a lot better than it was on console, a lot more effective in things like Crucible and that sort of thing. It does a decent amount of damage. It's pretty good at ad clearing in PvE. But the change of adding the Catalyst, so you have kind of like a shotgun mode and then an auto rifle mode, it's very, very cool. Some utility that we really haven't seen in the Destiny universe, making this gun even more unique, making it stand out even more compared to other exotics in the game. It's a lot of fun, and it is going in the number 28 spot. Now in the number 27 slot, we have the Sunshot. Oh man, if there's like one exotic that changes, like fundamentally changing from console to PC, the freaking Sunshot. This thing is amazing in Crucible, and actually in PvE, it's just really, really good on PC. It's very easy to use, very sticky, very explosive, which is always a plus. The Firefly is a lot more effective than like regular Dragonfly in Destiny 2, I guess it's called. The explosive rounds seem to be very effective as well. It's a lot of fun to use. The reload animations are awesome. The ornaments are awesome. I know this video isn't about aesthetics, but if you have a great exotic, great aesthetics never hurt. That's all I'm saying. And this gun makes shit blow up. Hell yeah. So, rank number 27. Rank number 26, we have the Jade Rabbit. This thing, for like years, was my least favorite exotic in the game over the course of Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. It just didn't really do it for me. It's a lot better. This thing, especially with the Catalyst, is so sticky in the Crucible. Once you get that sight on someone's head, I don't care if you shoot like 10 meters to the left, you're getting a headshot. It's pretty freaking effective, especially on long-range maps. So this is what I use to get my Randy's throwing knife done. Definitely gave me a new appreciation for it. And if you are playing Momentum Crucible modes, which are a great addition to the game, by the way, the Jade Rabbit, one-shot headshots, it's incredible. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, number 26 slot for this video. Now in the number 25 slot, we have the Legend of Acreus exotic shotgun. It does a ton of damage. It's a very, very, very good weapon in pretty much everything. In Gambit, it's a little bit weird because if you're invading, you're typically at longer ranges, but it's great for envoys. It's great for primevals. It's great for blockers, that sort of thing. In Crucible, you can shoot through Titan shields at one shots pretty much every super in the game, I believe. Maybe if you have overshields it won't, but I think it still will. In PvE, it's very, very powerful. Maybe needs a tiny buff in PvE against bosses, maybe. But other than that, I mean, the Acreus is a great place. It's always been really fun to use. And yeah, number 25 spot. This next spot is going to make a lot of people mad, so I'm sorry if you don't like it. But the number 24 slot, we have the Queenbreaker's bow. I'm sorry, guys. I know a lot of people don't like this thing. I don't know why. It's been improved significantly in Crucible, and it's not because of any buff or nerf or anything, just the change to the heavy system and how this weapon is used in general. I think it really just adds a nice dynamic to the game. Once again, though, I play on PC. It's a lot easier to use on that as well. On Gambit, it's very good. In Crucible and team-based Crucible, where you share heavy ammo, you get 5 shots of heavy ammo. That's like 5 guaranteed kills. I'd say like easily 3 kills. You might have to work a little bit for 4 kills, 5 kills. I'd say you can probably get once like every 2 matches if you're picking up heavy like 3 times a game. It's not hard to use. Sometimes I feel like the shots just don't land though. Like I feel like I'll have the cursor on someone's head and it'll just miss. The aim assist, ever since they nerfed it because of the Gambit fiasco, it hasn't been the same. Maybe the Catalyst could fix that, Bungie, maybe, please. But it's still a lot of fun. You get a ton of ammo. It's very effective in Crucible. I like it better than a regular linear fusion rifle, but I know a lot of people don't. One thing I think that could really help with this is maybe making a special weapon. I think that could help a lot, but I think people would also freak out about that, so maybe not. But this thing is pretty much good. You know, one of the best heavies, in my opinion, in Crucible. I use it a lot. It's a lot of fun to use, and yeah, putting in the number 24 spot. Now in the number 23 spot, we have another exotic that I would consider boring, sort of like the Colony, just because it's point and click. This is going to be the Truth, best invading weapon in the game, probably. We have one more that we're going to talk about in a second, actually, that might be a little bit better, but it's an easy 3 or 4 kills when you're invading if you have the ammo. In Crucible, it's easy kills. I will say it's subpar in PvE though. It doesn't do a lot of damage, and if someone rushes you with their super, the truth is not going to help you out very much, which is unfortunate, but you don't want to make it too powerful. So rank number 23, a weapon that does truth a little bit better than truth in a lot of cases though. A brand new exotic, the Leviathan's Breath, and everyone goes down in the comment section to tell me I'm stupid because I like the Leviathan's Breath. I don't know why people hate this thing so much. One shot against supers, one shot against, anything. If you use body shots, it staggers like every enemy in the game. This is, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe this is the only weapon in the game that will stagger like primeval bosses, strike bosses. I'm not sure if there's anything that isn't staggered by this. I'm sure like raid bosses aren't. I don't know that for a fact. It's a lot of fun to use. You do have kind of like that knockback effect. That's interesting, but you don't really need it. And I guess I didn't read the exotic perk. The exotic perk is called the Big Game Hunter. It fires a massive heavy bolt that staggers unshielded enemy combatants, and it's strong against unstoppable champions. Essentially, it's a giant bow, and it does a lot of damage. It's just kind of fun. I don't know. A lot of people are hating on this thing. I think it was a very good addition to the game, especially in Gambit. It's probably like, if I'm playing Gambit, I'm either using Truth or Leviathan's Breath, and I just find this one to be a little bit more fun to use, and, whatever. Rank number 22. Now in rank number 21, we have the Thunderlord returning from Destiny 1. It's amazing. It's great at ad clearing. It's great at single target DPS. You get a shit ton of ammo with it. Its exotic perk is really good, creating like lightning storms all over the freaking place, and it looks amazing, sounds amazing. It's very effective, and honestly, like, if I had to think about it, it's probably the most efficient ad clearing weapon in the game. Like, if you were like, all right, Scarrow, you have to go into a room with 100 enemies, and you just have to kill them really fast, probably Thunderlord. I think that would do it quicker than any other weapon in the game. Maybe like Recluse would be there, but Recluse is, whew, it is what it is. Thunderlord, though, very, very, very good. Rank number 21. Rank number 20, we have the Terabit. Already really good. I think it's been completely overshadowed by things like the Huckleberry and, of course, the Recluse. However, the Recluse is getting nerfed in the future. I did not rank this as if the Recluse was already nerfed. I like these things to be snapshots of this point in time. So this is where I think the Terabit is right now. If I'm going into an activity with a lot of solar shields, like let's say we do nightmare hunts and I need something for the final Crota encounter or that sort of thing, Terabit's really good for that because those enemies make everything else have solar shields. The Terabit tears through everything, especially on a match game. It's very good in terms of single target DPS if you get that Ravenous Beast up and going. I can't wait to use it more. I want this thing to be more effective. So when Recluse is nerfed and I have a reason to use it more, I'm definitely going to gladly do that. So rank number 20, rank number 19. This one's going to be a little bit weird too. With weapons that have unique functionalities, I really like to rank them higher. I feel like this is something I've neglected to do in previous videos, and it's made me understand, like, if there's something that only one exotic can do, it needs to be more recognized in the community. So the Worldline Zero is going to rank number 19 in this video. It's not the best for Crucible. It does really crap damage in PvE in terms of single target DPS. It's alright against ads and that sort of thing, but it is absolutely necessary for Warlock skating, speed runs, getting things done quickly, world record runs, all of these sorts of things. It's really hard to rank for that reason because it's not the best weapon in terms of like killing, but it's got a very, very unique functionality. It's necessary for like just entire audiences of the game, right? I think it's really important. I think it should be recognized for that. So I'm ranking it in the number 19 slot. Now in the number 18 slot, we have the Risk Runner, another thing that's been completely overshadowed by the Recluse, but I'm very excited to use this thing more as well. It's very fun. I always forget. I say this every ranking video, but it's true. I always forget how fun the Risk Runner is to use. Unlimited ammo, you're essentially impossible to kill. You can easily start the exotic perk by hitting yourself with a lightning grenade. If you're fighting any Vex, any Fallen, that sort of thing, you don't have to worry about that. You'll just automatically be hit by arc. You'll have unlimited ammo. The perk, because it refreshes every time you get a kill, it pretty much never stops. It's a freaking monster. I can't wait for it to be more popular. popular, and hopefully whatever enemies we are facing next season are arc-based, because once Recluse gets nerfed, it'll be Terabit or Risk Runner pretty much all of the time. Now in the number 17 slot, we have another brand new exotic. This is going to be the Arianas Vow. The exotic description for it, the perk just says, this weapon fires special shield-piercing rounds. It comes with a scope. Now, if you hear that description, that's not very exciting. But if I told you, you took a sniper rifle and you put it in a freaking hand cannon, it's 2-shot kills in Crucible, 1-shot kills if you have like Weapons of Light or some other type of buff, and the person's using like really low resilience. That's a lot more exciting. A sniper hand cannon. It's pretty good in PvE if you're using it in things like Nightfalls and you need to hit through barriers and that sort of thing. It's a lot of fun. Does a shit ton of damage in things like Crucible and Gambit. It's pretty much good everywhere. Very consistent 2-taps in the Crucible. I'd say the only downside is it takes energy ammo, which is actually kind of a good thing. It's a downside to the weapon because it makes it like less effective. You're essentially using a primary weapon for special ammo, but it's like in a weird limbo between primary and energy weapon. But that being said, it's still very good, and if you use primary ammo, it would be way too overpowered. So I get why it uses special ammo, but it definitely hurts the weapon. Coming in the number 17 slot. Number 16 slot, probably the most annoying weapon in the game right now. Chaperone, stupidly overpowered. If you are a Way of the Wraith Hunter with this thing, you do not die. You are always invisible. 1-shot headshots from freaking here to Saturn. Whew, it's very annoying. I really hope it gets nerfed or just dealt with, but it's undeniable. It's incredible in Crucible. Probably one of the best Crucible weapons in the game, honestly. If not, like, I'd say easily top 10, maybe top 5 best Crucible weapons in the game. Coming in number 16 slot. Number 15 slot, we have the Rat King. This thing is stupid. This thing, everyone underestimates the Rat King, okay? It's insane. It is insane. Just using it alone, okay? You get invisibility on every kill. You get health regen on every kill. It's full auto, and it has an incredibly competitive time to kill. Like I said, I play on PC, might affect it because sidearms aren't quite as good, from what I understand, on console anymore at least. But Rat King, stupidly overpowered. I don't know how everyone isn't using this thing. And if you get a team of 6 together using this thing in things like PvE, I've seen people one-phase like freaking raid bosses with Rat King. It's ridiculous. It's a lot of fun though. I really hope this thing becomes more popular because it's a lot of fun to use, and it's just silly, right? It's just a fun, silly exotic that just happens to be stupidly effective. So, rank number 15. Rank number 14, we have the Lord of Wolves. It's, you know, it's pretty much the shotgun version of the Izunagi's Burden. Uses special ammo. It's really good. You can just melt bosses with it. Like, just do insane amounts of damage with it very quickly. It's good in Crucible. It's good in Gambit. It's incredible in PvE. This is something I would definitely recommend everyone try if you haven't gotten it. And, yeah, Lord of Wolves, man. Number 14. Number 13, we have the Atun. You know, what can I say about this? Shoots, tracking, flame, orbs, that are 1-shot in Crucible, 2 shots against supers. Very, very incredible damage in PvE. One of the most annoying invader weapons in Gambit because it's got like that kind of half track on it. You get a ton of ammo for it. Yeah, I don't know what I need to say about this. And now it's a freaking Sparrow too, so it can, not only can you kill and deal out like insane amounts of death and damage with this thing, but you can also ride it to your destinations. Okay, Yatun, there we go. Huckleberry is going to be in the number 12 spot. I think out of all of the exotic SMGs, this thing is going to get an incredible amount of use once Recluse is nerfed. Once again, did not affect its ranking in this video, but I think it's only going to get better from here. You never have to reload. It does a lot of damage, including single target DPS. If you get like that rampage stacks up, it's very, very, very good. A lot of fun, pretty effective in pretty much everything. And yeah, number 12 spot. In the number 11 slot, we have the Outbreak Perfected. Raid weapon in Destiny 1, not raid weapon in Destiny 2. This thing's actually really good. It does a ton of damage in Crucible. It's very competitive. Then you throw this thing in PvE, and I like to refer to this thing as like the easy man's or brand new fire team's safe DPS, right? It used to do a lot of damage. Now that you can't stack things like buffs and debuffs in PvE, it's not quite as good anymore. But if you have 6 kind of new players to Destiny, you're looking to get into raiding and you're not really that good at like stacking buffs or like knowing where everyone needs to go yet, this is a very, very safe and effective option. You can two-phase pretty much every boss in the game with Outbreak quite easily. Maybe three-phase the new boss or bosses that have a ton of health, things like Insurrection Prime, the Sanctified Mind. These guys, you might need a couple more damage phases than that, but it's incredibly easy to use because it's primary. You have pretty much endless ammo with it, and in order to do well with it, all you have to do is hit your critical shots. So it's pretty good. Kind of a crutch, I would say, but I think it's nice because it's not the best weapons in the game. It's very safe, very easy to use, but if you want to get better at the game and you want to work on like your damage stacking and that sort of thing, there are definitely weapons that do DPS better, which we're going to talk about. Now in the number 10 slot, we have the Ace of Spades. So freaking good. Probably top 3 best Crucible weapons, in my opinion. You get that first kill. It's a little bit rough to get that first kill, I'll say. Not the best time to kill in the world, but you get the Memento Mori rolling. You're going. You just plowing through people. Super easy to use. This thing has like 12 exotic perks. It has Firefly, Outlaw, Kill Clip, freaking everything. There's just so good. A lot of fun to use, very effective, especially on PC, ranking it in the number 10 spot. In the number 9 slot, we have the Bad Juju, something I'm so happy is as good as it is. Supers are a lot more difficult to get than they were previously. Like, I mean, even in Season of Opulence, they were a lot easier to get. Bungie nerfed it really hard. So a weapon whose exotic perk is for you to get supers back more quickly, huge plus. It's very good at clearing out huge hordes of enemies. You never have to reload. It's just a combination that is just beautiful. And if you have the Masterwork, you get Endless Orb Generation, allowing you to get your super back even more quickly. So it's a very good exotic. Once the Recluse is gone, this is another one of these weapons I think will be getting a lot more playtime. Just like this will be like a lot of people's options for clearing large groups of enemies. Like I said, helps you get your super back. It's very good. That's where I'm putting Bad Juju. Number 8, a brand new exotic, the Monte Carlo. Now, this one's perk is called the Monte Carlo method. Dealing damage with this weapon reduces your melee cooldown and grants a chance to fully recharge your melee ability with each kill. That's where this thing comes into play. There are a lot of builds right now, a lot of builds centered around melee. You have the Endless Shoulder Titan. You have, I think it's like Bottom Tree Striker. I haven't really delved into that one yet, so if I got that wrong, just, sue me. But there's a Striker build that's incredible with punches. You have the Liar's Handshake Hunters. I'm sure Warlocks have one. Yeah, the Karnstein Griefs. All of these things, right? Are the Karnstein Armlets, I think. It's been a while. Sorry. The Monte Carlo helps with all of this, right? You get your melees back. You get them back incredibly fast. And my poison, my build is going to be the one-shot shoulder charge. You always have shoulder charge. So if you pair the Monte Carlo with the Peregrine Greaves, you're going to be able to clear Nightfalls because shoulder charge with the Peregrine Greaves one-shots pretty much every champion in the game. Not on master difficulty, but on 950. If you get up to 980, maybe like 2 shoulder charges, it's really that, and it is an Augie shot, will take out pretty much anything in the game. Very fun. Endless shoulder charges, incredibly effective. I hope it's not nerfed, but I know it's going to be, but it's a very specialized type of gameplay. And yeah, number 8 spot. Now in the number 7 slot, we have a weapon that probably should not have any explanation, but I'm going to give it one, the Thorn. Very easy to use. With the change in how the recoil works on this weapon, it's even more easy to use because you can predict where that next shot is going. You get the Soul Devourer perk, I think it's called. You can 2-tap in certain situations if you're close enough. It's a good weapon. It's just a really, really good weapon. Probably the best Crucible weapon in the game. Second best? Second best. We have the best one coming out. But the Thorn is going to go in the number 7 slot. Now in the number 6 slot, we have the 1,000 Voices. Easy powerhouse to use all around. Unfortunately, not as good as you used to be, but there are rumblings of the Catalyst being in the database, so maybe we can get our old 1,000 Voices back. It's incredibly unique. It's one of those like exotics that there's a lot of exotics in the game that just feel like, oh, another space magic weapon or something. The 1,000 Voices, it definitely sets itself apart. It does an incredible amount of damage. You get a decent amount of ammo for it. It's a lot of fun. Very, very explodey. And Yeah, number 6 slot for the 1,000 Voices. Now for the number 5 spot, we have the Whisper of the Worm. This weapon has not been this high in quite a while. It's finally better than it used to be. I feel like it's weird because getting rid of all the damage stacking stuff actually helped the Whisper of the Worm. It makes it stayed the same, but now it's better compared to everything else. It's just a lot of fun to use. A very solid, heavy weapon choice. Now that they got rid of auto reloading, you don't have to worry about standing in a Lunafaction Rift because that would completely just like destroy the exotic perk. If you have the catalyst for this weapon, I think you do like 33% more damage. It's very good. It's very reliable. It's very effective. And yeah, Whisper of the Worm in the number 5 slot. This one's probably going to make a lot of people mad, but I have a sweet spot in my heart for this exotic. It's going to be the last word. I know on console, supposedly this thing isn't quite as good. On PC, if you have a last word, it's pretty hard to lose gunfights. It's especially at like close to medium range. Last word is insane. You kill people so freaking fast with it. Definitely, in my opinion at least, the best primary you can use in Crucible. It absolutely melts everything else. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, I know that's going to be kind of a controversial pick, but that's where I'm ranking the last word. It's a lot of fun. Can outfire even things like Thorn and that sort of thing. Yeah, last word, that's where that's going. Now we've reached the top 4 weapons. In the number 4 slot, we have a brand new one to Shadowkeep, the Divinity, one of the best weapons to come out of a DLC in quite a while, in my opinion. So, its exotic perk Judgment makes it so that sustained damage with this weapon envelops the target in a field that weakens and disrupts them. What does this mean? It essentially turns an enemy into a giant blue crit point. You can shoot an enemy anywhere in this field and you will do critical damage. And it actually adds a damage buff on top of this that makes you do even more damage to the enemy. I think it's 35%. It might be 25%, but I believe it's 35%. So as of right now, this actually stacks with buffs and debuffs. So you can hit an enemy with Oppressive Darkness to debuff them. You can have Weapons of Light active to buff yourself, doing, twice as much damage, essentially, not really twice as much, but you're stacking a buff and a debuff, making yourself do a ton more damage, and you add Divinity on top of that, giving yourself a third source of extra damage, and making it easier to hit the crit point. Really just kind of destroys games. They are nerfing the Divinity to make it so it doesn't stack with everything else, but even then, this weapon might not be as effective in things like raids anymore, especially when you have like an Oppressive Darkness grenade. That's going to really get rid of the utility of Divinity in those sorts of activities, but on master level activities, like on Master Nightfalls or Master Nightmare Hunts, the Divinity just shines. You need to be able to have that debuff at a whim whenever you're taking out champions. The Divinity is incredible at this, and it really just stands out. It's a very fun and unique weapon. It had an amazing quest, and its utility is there, and I don't see that going anywhere anytime soon. Number 2 slot, we have the Anarchy. I shouldn't have to explain this one. If you want an exotic weapon that does insane DPS, especially if you pair it with Mountaintop, and you just want to make the game easy mode, the Anarchy. That is your answer. It is so good. Pretty much the best way to solo things like the Pit of Heresy and that sort of thing. Anarchy is incredible. If you don't have it, go try your luck with the RNG at Scourge of the Past. This is one of those exotics I think is a must-have for everyone. It's so, so good. So, yeah, Anarchy in the number 2 slot. And this should surprise no one. The best weapon in the game. Insanely good for everything. One-shots, supers. It's just a one-shot body shot, obviously, if it one-shot supers, whatever. In Crucible, and in activities like raids and other PvE activities, arguably the best weapon in the game. The most consistent because you always have ammo for it. The Izanagi's Burden. If you have the catalyst for this thing, it shreds even more. This thing is absolutely insane. It definitely jumped up a ton since last season, especially with all these nerfs. Izanagi's is so easy to use. You always have ammo for it. You can one-phase the Consecrated and the Sanctified Mind with this thing. You can pretty much one-phase pretty much every other raid boss. I'm trying to think if there's any that you can't. I'm not really sure. This thing does a absolute shit ton of damage. It has insane DPS. Like I said, you always have ammo for it. It's very easy to use. And yeah, it's good in everything. It is just so good in everything. So that is why it is coming in the number 1 spot as the best exotic in Destiny, in my opinion, at this point in time. So, an hour later, we have ranked all 61 exotics. hell yeah. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, rating, and share with your friends. Once again, 10% off my pin in the description, rank 61. Thank you for supporting the channel, guys. If you are interested in watching either of the 2 videos on screen, you can click their respective annotations to be taken to them. If you're brand new to my channel, make sure to the giant version of my logo on screen to be subscribed to my awesome Destiny 2 videos and live streams. Thank you guys so much for watching today, and I'll see you in my next video.